Hey guys, in this tutorial I'm going to take you through what a tax return is, how it works, why we've got to submit a tax return, and all those sorts of interesting things. You might be thinking, well, that's pretty boring. Why do I need to know about it? Well, the reality is, once you start earning more than $18,200, you are going to have to start paying tax. And it's important to understand that the Australian Tax Office requires you to fill in a tax return. And sometimes this can work in your favour, and especially when you're earning smaller amounts of money, completing a tax return can really work in your favour. So this is going to help you understand that. The financial year is different to a calendar year. So a financial year goes from the 1st of July each year to the 30th of June each year. And after the 30th of June each year, you need to complete what's called a tax return. And this is basically where you submit all of your income information to the ATO. You say, hey ATO, this is what I've earned throughout the year. And as I said, that's what's called completing a tax return. The tax return then must be submitted to the ATO by the 31st of October if you're filling it in yourself. Now, if you've got an accountant filling it in, there are later dates, but let's just stick with the 31st of October. You have to have your tax return completed. So between June 30 and the 31st of October, somewhere in there, you have to have submitted your tax return to the ATO to tell them how much income you've earned. To help you do this, your employer will give you what's called a group certificate, and they need by law to give that to you by the 14th of July. And a group certificate is basically just a summary of everything that you've earned throughout the year, and also what tax has been taken out of your pay along the way. You can submit your tax return online. The easiest way to do this is via the MyGov website. Now, I've put a link in the notes below that shows you how to do that for the first time, but it's a very simple online system that will allow you to do your tax free of charge through that system every single year. Now, of course, there are paid websites, or you can go to tax agents or accountants to do your tax return for you. But if your situation is really uncomplicated, you just need to go through this process of doing it. And as I said, the link is in the notes below. It's important to understand that you've got to include all sources of income. So this isn't just what you've received from your employer. If you've also received interest on bank accounts or from investments, dividends, or something like that, you also need to include that in your tax return. And what's really scary is the ATO often knows about all this information already. So they have links with all the banks and financial institutions and so on. So they often know about this sort of stuff and have pre-populated your tax portal for you. But it is important that you're upfront and honest with them, because you don't want to get caught out. So at this point, the ATO receives all your information. You've submitted it all to them. They look at how much you've earned, how much tax you've paid, and if you've paid too much tax along the way, then woohoo, you get a refund. They actually give that money back to you, and they either put it in your bank account or send you a check, and you've got some extra cash, which is fantastic. On the other hand, however, if you haven't paid enough tax along the way, then they're going to send you a bill saying, hey, you haven't paid us enough tax, you need to pay us ASAP. And this can often happen if you haven't told your employer. Let's say you've started working after finishing uni. If you haven't told your employer that you have a HECS debt, and the ATO is going to go, hang on, they haven't been taking out HECS payments, and therefore you now need to pay for it all. And that can be quite a painful lesson. So if you're earning more than about $51,700 in a new job, make sure you're telling your employer that you have a HECS debt so they can take it out along the way. So there we go. Very simplistically, that is what a tax return is. In the first few years, it's quite likely that you're going to end up with tax refunds, especially if they're taking little bits of tax out throughout the year and you're not quite earning $18,200 yet. So make sure you fill in a tax return. The easiest way to do it is by going to the link below and going to the MyGov website.